I just discovered do not disturb mode on my phone where it like blocks all.
Does that mean it won't even vibrate?
Nothing.
No. Okay, so
No
how
calls.
do you do that?
Right. But I already automatically like check my phone like every 30 minutes to an hour for work. So now I get to like at least have an hour away from each check-in. Otherwise, I'm just like constantly checking it.
Well, it's dangerous when someone texts you and you don't see it. And
That's
like,
true.
you know, when I text you and you don't see it,
I'm
that's
usually
important.
next to you 24/7. So that's why it also works. It's really nice to officially meet you.
My pleasure.
I mean, we kind of met.
I mean, we met.
Yeah, you were very
in
busy though.
Chicago.
Yeah,
Chicago was
Chicago.
kind of like.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
What
Did
an
you have fun?
Oh my God, we want to go back.
Roscoe's is so much fun.
So much
Chicago's
fun.
so much fun.
So much fun.
It's a
We
great
went
city.
around April. No, it was May.
Yeah.
So the weather was nice already, and we can't wait to go back.
Yeah, we
you
had
have to go in
so much
summertime.
fun.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite city in the whole wide world.
I can see why.
Yeah,
like we
it's
really, I had never been there, especially to see the weather. My idea of Chicago is like
Yeah.
freezing, no
that's right.
greenery.
That's still right. It's very much
True. I had never seen it in the summer though, which is such a different
Yeah.
dynamic. We came to see, I think I told you we were going to see Charlie XCX for
Yes.
like Brat.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
this is before she went on like her stadium tour, so we
Okay.
got to see that, and we got to meet you.
Yeah,
and
that
get our
was fun.
first time
That
at
was so
Roscoe. Oh
fun.
my gosh,
Betty
we're gonna be
made it
back.
amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
We just wrapped up.
Yes. We know.
Yeah.
We're obsessed.
We
Yeah.
just wrapped. It was so good. And then we're back May 9th.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Does that excite you, or do you feel like you kind of want to take longer breaks from it?
I don't like taking really, really long breaks
Sure,
because you develop like a good rhythm.
Yes.
And you have this pace going.
Yeah.
And then you kind of break that.
Yeah.
Because you take so much time
Right,
off.
right.
And I take August. I work up until August, and then I have August through December off.
That's
Which is
Yeah,
I mean,
nice.
it's nice, but to not be in that
Yeah,
flow and then
sure.
to jump back into it, it's just like, ugh.
Especially at the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
where we're starting to.
Yes.
you've just finished the
Complicated.
holidays
Yeah.
and like you're like
And then you just
cozy and now you have
jump
to
right back into it. Yeah.
I get that. It's
Yeah.
even funny, like I can relate even when I have breaks from seeing patients, right? Like I have a
Yeah.
spiel when I meet someone, especially because I
Yeah.
meet patients virtually, and so if it's been like a little lag, I'm like, wait, what do I say
Yeah.
again? Like what is my like go-to lines,
Yeah.
right? Because you just have
You gotta
a format that you're used to,
Absolutely.
and similar with this, like we just started this. You're our 8th guest, which is
nice.
so ironic because season 8 and All Stars 8.
Oh my God. This number just
Must be a lucky number.
Get rid of it. I can't get rid of this number. I don't want to. I'm fine with it. But
It's
yes,
your number.
okay. I love it.
But we're like, at the beginning, it's hard to like get back into it and just have
Yeah.
that flow. But luckily, we've had incredible guests like yourself, which are super easy to talk to.
Awesome.
But I'm very excited to see the male presenting form of.
Yeah.
Is it Fabian or Fabian?
Fabian.
Fabian.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm white, so I'm gonna say it wrong.
It could be Fabian too. In Spanish it's Fabian.
Sure,
So,
Fabian.
but yeah, Fabian.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm Tyler, but if a Hispanic family often will call me Taylor, so I get that. That's fine. I've gotten Ty, I've gotten all of it, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not keep up with it. I call him Gabriel. His real name is Gabriel.
Gabriel.
And
Gabriel.
Gabe.
but I
Gail.
say
Yeah.
Gabriel. That's my, country family. Would call him as well, but the southern roots are hard. That tongue is thick and lazy is what I like to say with southern accents.
I think it's cute.
Oh, I'm glad.
I'm from Brazil. I grew
Yeah.
up watching movies, and when the character is called Gabriel, I was like, oh my God, I wish my parents would call me Gabriel. This is different.
Yeah,
go.
Exactly.
Now he's
Now,
stuck
dream
with it. Exactly. So, how is it that you sort of balance that sort of persona? Because I feel like you are someone who kind of carries yourself into drag, at least based on what I can see and based on who you are on television and when I met you in Chicago. Is there a line that is more you? Well, I guess it's all you versus Naysha.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
me, and it's just like different parts of me.
Sure.
But I guess when it comes to doing like a podcast
Sure.
or being on stage,
Right.
everyone's so used to seeing me as Naysha.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you see me outside of that, it's a little
Yes.
foreign to everyone. They're
Sure.
like, "Who's what's this?" And it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm like this every day." You
Right.
know what I mean? Like
This is my normal.
this
Right.
is my normal. Yeah.
Right.
But other than that, like trying to find like a balance with it. It's not that I necessarily try to find a balance. It's what I'm feeling.
Right.
I possess very much masculine and feminine energy.
Sure.
And some days it's a little bit, you know, one is more than the other.
Yep.
But I got to the point where I'm no longer, for lack of better words, like silencing one
Sure.
or keeping what, you know what I mean? It's whatever I'm feeling.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because
Yeah.
for so long, it's like, you got to try and be masked.
Right.
And for
Right.
so
Yeah.
long, my drag aesthetic, which is very, you know,
Glamour,
realness and
fierce,
glamour,
beautiful.
you know, I can't go lift the weight
Right.
because then my arms get
Right.
big and now they're like,
Yeah.
but you look like a brick. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I got to be mindful of that.
Sure. Demure.
So yeah, very. So I've had to just kind of throw that all out the door and say, you know what, today I want to work arms and I'm going to.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't let anything,
Yeah.
whether it's my environment or someone, just really kind of dictate whether what I'm feeling. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
And so do you feel like you have embraced more of your masculine side since you competed as a male in Mister Continental, which I know I'm not catching everybody up, but
Yeah.
they're just going to have to work on it themselves, do some homework, Naysha Lopez, Wikipedia, it's all there.
No, for sure. And you know what it is I had a goal. My dream was to be Miss Continental. Like,
Right.
Wow.
I just really wanted to be Miss Continental, and that was a pageant that only trans women
Right.
would win.
Right.
And so I knew that for a while I had to really sacrifice what I looked like on an everyday.
And when did you start that journey into trying to
I
win?
started that journey, I would say, I think it was like 2008,
Sure.
maybe, like officially,
Sure.
because I was 18 years old, which would be like 2002,
Okay.
and I was doing a pageant. I just did it for fun,
Sure.
to like get my feet wet.
Okay. So you knew you liked drag, but you
Yes.
didn't know you wanted to do pageants quite yet.
Well, I had seen Miss Continental, and then I fell in love with it, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I have to do this.
Yeah.
And then I did a preliminary for fun to get my feet wet, because eventually I would want to compete.
Right. Sure.
So I did it, and then I ended up winning the
Wow.
preliminary, and
No
I was
way.
like, and I was 18, and you have to be 21, and so I was kind of
Very
screwed.
Tatiana.
Yeah, very not. I was like, what am I gonna do now? I
Wow.
have to. I have to
Right.
compete.
Yeah.
So I did. But that's when like the journey started. I was just like, oh, my God.
Amazing.
I started letting my hair grow out.
Feeling
and-
your oats.
just all that, just, you know.
That's
All of
cool.
that,
So, did you find trouble embracing your feminine side before you were 18, like in your childhood, or did you feel like you could always sort of be
No,
yourself?
actually, because naturally, as a kid, my demeanor was more feminine.
same?
And so I didn't have
Right.
trouble with that. And the thing is that for me, I grew up around, my mother was, you know, a single mother, you know, she was divorced. A lot of my aunts were single, you know, parents.
A lot of strong female
Yeah,
influence.
That's what it is. It was
Yeah.
just so, for
Wow.
me, power and
Yeah.
strength, resilience, all of those things, I associate that with women and femininity,
Sure,
not
sure.
with men.
Yeah.
You know what I
Wow.
mean? So,
Because you saw the real struggle of women.
Hello.
Men don't
You know what
really
I mean?
struggle.
No, don't struggle. How are you struggling? You know what I mean? But,
Let's be honest.
so, I mean, I was always inspired by
Yeah.
them, and that's where I really looked at for strength and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I embraced my feminine side, whether others didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the feminine part is not something that I kind of struggled with.
Was that fostered for you in your environment with your family, or I mean, it's probably
I felt like as a kid, you know, you don't want to, for lack of better words, ruin your kids. So you
Yes.
just let them do whatever, right? But then they start to get to that age where, in your eyes, you're like, this is right and this
Yes.
is wrong.
guidance.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's like, I have to guide you on what's right and what's
Right.
wrong.
Right.
And what's wrong is that you're a boy, so you can't act like a girl.
Well,
you know what I mean? So it's like, we're going to guide you in this direction. So yes, that did, you know, happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's with everything that's foreign to anyone.
Sure.
When they just don't know. You know what I mean? So they learn about it and they figure it out, and then they're okay with it eventually, you know?
So they did kind of move past that
They
for
did.
you. Was that early in your life, or did that happen kind of later?
I would say a little bit later, like into the teens.
Teens.
Yeah, I would say like in the teens. And then it wasn't until like my 20s that like my mom was like, and I remember her saying it too. She's like, "Oh, you work today?" And I had a show, but she was like, "Oh, you," because she would never acknowledge it as like a real job or like, when are you gonna stop doing that? You know, that kind of thing. And then I remember, right? I'm like, stuck with it. And I just remember one day her saying like, "Oh, you work today?" And I was just like, "Yeah." Oh my God, you know, and it's like little things like that you see that they're making progress.
Right.
So yeah, they got there. They got there. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, my parents, they're on some sort of way of getting there. I'm not sure exactly what bus stop they're at, but the bus is running. So hopefully it gets them there eventually. We don't really communicate today.
Okay.
I don't know when this will air. Maybe we'll be communicating by then. But my parents are super conservative. The limited exposure to drag that I've had, I mean, I was exposed during the pandemic, and it just really changed my complete perspective on my sexuality, what femininity and masculinity were, how they could be combined, and you can float between the two, or you can just decide you don't want to label yourself either and be both, you know, at the same time. And I never knew of those concepts. I just thought men were masculine, and if you weren't that, you weren't being a man, and, and women were female, and if you weren't that, you weren't being the right kind of female.
Right.
So the limited time that I've had with my parents, because we'll see them on holidays or this or that, I'll put Drag Race on. But it's like my only way of like trying to force it into their perspective. Because usually we have about an hour or two to hang out with them, and I'm like, all right, this is a good strategy to like expose them to the ideas, but it hasn't quite worked yet. Okay. As you can imagine, it's a little more
try
complicated
a few times.
than that. But yeah, I'm just trying to get them to accept the queerness and then maybe be able to move through that into other things. But my also approach from my mom is just like to leave it, because she would come to our house lots, like just leave it in her face. Like we'd always have Drag Race playing on TV. I always leave out things that are more queer in nature, like maybe the clothes I wear or things that look more flamboyant, because this I know triggers her, and so the more she's exposed to it, the less triggering maybe it would be. But that's my strategy. I'm sure it's not the best one, but I'm much better at giving other people advice than taking my own or following advice that's you know going to be successful for me. Okay, so you're 18, you do your first pageant, and you win, and then what is this like light in you at that point?
Well, I come from a pageant family. My sister is a former Miss Puerto Rico. Like, we've always loved like competition, pageantry, all of that. You know, Latinos, like we're obsessed with all that shit. You know, like
beauty.
Miss Universe and all that. Like, we're obsessed.
It's a thing.
It really is a thing. It really is a thing. So, I mean, I would coach my sister. We would get her in pageants and do all that. And then this came around. I'm like, oh my God, now I can actually do this. You know what I mean? And so I got super excited about it. And Miss Continental, which I hope one day you get to go. It's in Chicago.
We were planning to do so. We would love to go.
Yeah, it is one of the best experiences ever. To watch this like unfold on stage. The different categories, you know, it's simple, you know, categories as far as, you know, evening gown, swimsuit. There's an interview portion that's private, and then there's talent. But it's that talent category that is just so magical to watch everyone, you know, on stage and how they express their own personal talents. You can, by their talent, you can say, okay, this person is a Broadway person. This person loves Broadway, or you know, this is that girl that does the flips, and the gigs and the tricks and all that. You know what I mean? And then you have someone who'll do like a fierce monologue, and you're like, that lip sync was so on point. You know what I mean? And then you have the other, you know, the fashion categories that they come out in, and you're like, I would never wear that dress. It's hideous. And then they sell it to you. You know, the way they like walk down the runway, you're like, I want this gown now. Like, I want it. That's a talent in itself. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So it is a really magical experience.
Amazing.
And you really see the artistry behind drag.
For sure.
Because it really is an art.
I think what's interesting is, again, I have a unique perspective just coming from a very conservative, like country is how I like to describe us, family, who I love, and I loved living that country life, and I still, you know, have great memories about it, but my exposure to drag or to trans women and men was that it was labeled with some sort of sexual deviancy, right? Like, this is the conservative Christian label to you know, terrorize us enough to where we don't get inquisitive
Yeah.
enough
Absolutely.
to open our minds, right? What's interesting though is I went to a nice church growing up. Everyone was very nice and kind. I never had any like, not like today, like the today picture of like going to a very politically charged church. Like that didn't exist in my head. So back then, I would go to church. I enjoyed it mostly for the socialization, but we had a member of the church who had joined. I knew they were new because he was married to a woman, but he dressed in women's clothes. And he had a man's haircut, and he wore earrings, and he always wore a dress with strappy shoes of some sort. And he was in maybe his 50s or 60s, so he stood out. And right, obviously, he stood out. And I was maybe 12 or 13, and you know, my group of friends and us would be like shocked, but no one really talked about it. It was like he was there. Parents didn't really acknowledge it. We didn't really discuss it. He then joined the choir, and he got to wear his outfits that he chose in the choir. But like 3 or 4 weeks later, they made him start wearing men's clothes, and then we just stopped seeing him come.
Wow.
And so it was interesting. It was my first experience ever seeing someone dress in a different gender that stereotypically we were exposed to. And I really never touched on the topic again until Drag Race, literally. I started watching it with him in 2020 during the pandemic, and I had seen a little bit of it. A friend of mine was a big fan, and I didn't really understand the concept because if you watch it in passing or if you catch one episode, especially at the end, you're like, I don't know if these are actual, because sometimes you're like, these are actually females just competing in some way, right? And so I never really grasped it. And then we started watching it together as like a bonding activity, and it just shook my brain. Like in every capacity of just being gay and what it means to be different and feel like an outsider, and how we can feel so ostracized from our family, our friends, our community, but still create beauty and still find, we are the people who can find beauty in damage and can use our pain to show others what you can get through. And so that's constantly just been at least my message from drag. And it's changed my opinion of how I look at myself and what masculine means to me, and all those images of masculinity and how they've in some ways poisoned my brain to feel never enough, to feel inadequate. And now being able to balance like my interest in the gym and having muscles, but still having a pair of heels in my closet that we occasionally break out when I decide I want to break my feet because it hurts so bad. I don't know how y'all wear them. We've tried.
We try a few
We just gotta
times.
get you the right one.
That's
We gotta get you the right one.
The Amazon
That's key.
$29.95 or not cut.
Listen, Amazon $29.95. Let me tell you, they're hurting everyone, not just you. Everyone.
Good to know.
It's a no.
That makes sense. But how many people come up to you and they're like, just never even met you before, and have, you know, don't know you from Adam, and you don't know them either, but they get so emotional and so struck by you from what they've built in a relationship from TV?
Anytime anyone ever comes up, you just don't get used to that. You really don't get used to it. It's just such a compliment. You know what I mean? And if I'm doing anything that either makes you smile or makes you get through the day or gets you through the hour that you just saw me on, you know, at Roscoe's or whatever the case may be, whatever it is, it's the biggest compliment. You know what I mean? And it's not something I could ever get used to. It's funny because we talk about like when someone's like, can I take a picture with you? And they're like, don't you get like tired of it? And I'm like, you have to understand that this person wants to take this moment right now and freeze it forever because it means that much to them that they want to remember this for as long as they can, that they want to take a picture. So if I'm running across the airport, which has happened, and they're like, Naysha, oh my God, can I get a picture? I'm gonna stop. You know what I mean? Because it means that much to them. And it's also now part of my personality to be like, no. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, never. You know what I mean? I'm just like, you want a picture with me? What? Okay, let's do it, you know?
For sure.
So it will always be a compliment. It just reminds me of why I do this, and I love doing what I do.
Do people ever give you like those, what I hear from, sometimes you hear from music artists where they're like, wow, you came up to me and told me you were going to die and I saved your life and now I don't know what to do with this emotion, right? Or like, I guess I'll keep working and making music for you. Like,
you know, never died. Never experienced that one. As of recently, the one I get more now is the whole mask and femme thing. Because I'm so much more open about it now, and I'm so much more in front of the camera, both male and in drag, that there's certain people that are like, wait, like you're doing, you know, both these things, you know what I mean? And it's like, these two things can coexist. You know what I mean? You don't have to choose one or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to mention that one does not define the other.
Exactly.
So I can be as masculine as I want,
Right.
and it doesn't define how feminine I can be.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so allowing people to kind of see that has inspired more people to be like, I want to kind of try to get a drag. You know what I mean? And then the other way around, some drag queens are like, I need to put a little more effort into my everyday, because that's another thing.
Right.
That as queens,
You lean into that.
we lean into it, and then it's a baseball
Right.
cap with a shaved face and liner from the day before.
So basically me.
And no. Are you wearing liner? Are you running around the city with liner?
I have my eyebrows for now, but you have yours too.
What, my eyebrows?
Yeah.
What about them? No,
They're
these are
yours.
mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's
No,
it.
I mean, I
couldn't
fill
do
them in too, but I don't have like, some people just completely.
Yes.
No. I don't have.
You have
them.
beautiful eyebrows. by the way.
Thank you. I get them microbladed.
I gotta try that.
Yeah. No, you have enough hair.
You think?
Yeah. Both of you do. You
I
do
don't
not
know.
need
I
microblading.
have some hair.
He's good. He's got good eyebrows.
You're both good. You're both. I don't have a lot of hair on my brows,
Oh.
so it's just the microblading to kind of fill it in. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So so I have microblading.
You could fool me with anything. 'Cause I am like, I wish my
That's my
eyebrows
job.
looked. Yeah, hey, we need to hang out more.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you mentioned that too, because I do wonder, like, how do drag queens that, especially if they're dating another man who is, cis and homosexual,
Yeah.
looking to date another man,
Yeah.
how do they sort of swing, especially their look? Because like you mentioned, sometimes you can't, if you're really focusing on a pageant and you're looking for a particular aesthetic, you don't want to be hitting the gym and biceps, but maybe your partner does. And so how do they balance like that dynamic?
And I can tell you so many stories. I'm gonna I'm gonna use one in particular, and I won't say their name, but
Can we guess? No, I won't.
no, I mean I know they wouldn't have an issue with me
Sure,
saying it, but the thing was, like, this person transitioned,
Sure.
and then not transitioned, I should say, was in the process of transitioning,
Sure.
because you can get caught up
Anything.
in the spotlight,
That,
in
yeah,
the,
sure.
in the
Yeah.
the cheering and the people getting their life for you and all of that. And then you take all the makeup off, and that is all gone.
Right.
It's all gone.
It's all gone.
Right.
And that, can I curse, by the way?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And that can fuck with your head.
Yeah,
And for my friends, it fucked with their head.
for sure.
They're like, maybe I need to transition. I think this is who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
And then went that route, and then realized wait, whoa. This is not who I am.
Well,
Sure.
It is not. And they kind of backtracked.
Yep.
Right.
And it's perfectly fine. You need to do
Completely
what you
fine.
need to
Right,
do,
exactly.
for you, right? The reason I bring that up is because you have to give yourself that love.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, Naysha can get all the wigs and the heels but you know what? Let me go get a facial for me.
Yep.
Let me go get a massage.
You have to-
Let me hit the gym.
Yes.
Let me, you have to give yourself
Nurture
a little
both.
love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that you can feel good about just yourself as well.
Yeah.
Not only when you're in drag. And so I know that there's a couple queens that, they do kind of struggle with that.
Sure.
But I know that a few queens have been like, you've inspired me.
Yeah.
I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
I'm hitting the gym. Like,
sure.
I'm working on
Yeah.
me a little more
Yes.
because I need to.
Yep.
Go buy yourself something, because it's like you're spending thousands of dollars on costumes and
Right.
wigs,
Yes.
and then I see you in the same hoodie and shorts and hat every single
Yeah.
time. And
Right.
I mean, and I'm not saying that because I didn't do it, because I did.
Right.
That
Sure.
was me.
Right.
It was just like I was putting no effort into my mental health, what I was looking like physically,
Yeah.
how good I was feeling physically and mentally.
Right.
All that was just kind of put aside because I was so focused on
Right.
Yeah.
being Naysha,
Yeah, I mean, it can be consuming just like really anything else.
Totally, sure.
Any type of career
Totally,
can
yeah.
consume you in that way. And
Yeah.
the difference, I think, is when you're in a career in entertainment, is there's so much immediate gratification and
Yes.
feedback
Yes.
from either your fans or your friends or the mirror, and you can make this dramatic transition from someone who just walked in their gym clothes to a fierce like celebrity diva
Yeah.
in like a few hours.
Yeah.
So turning that off is already hard enough for that real celebrity diva who just
Absolutely.
wipes the makeup off. When you have to decompose some of that like art that you've plastered, it's not just a like quick thing either, right? You're sitting there for quite a bit of time, digesting your emotions, coming down, and then seeing the end product alone oftentimes, right? I mean, when I'm in the bathroom taking off whatever I'm wearing the day, I'm usually alone. Yeah. So this is normal. You should be alone when you do drag, I'm sure. But it can get overwhelming, I can imagine. And then when you take out the resources we all have for mental health, which are zero, like where do you go? And who do you talk to? And, you know, maybe people are supporting you and giving you ideas. And maybe for some people it is transitioning. That is their missing piece.
Right.
The wonderful thing about medicine, especially with transitioning, is it's not like a switch. You can try it. If it doesn't work for you, you can come right back. A lot of people, I think, especially in politics right now, are like, oh, we can't let people do this because it will harm them forever. Well, they can always come right back out of it. It's not like something that flips on or flips off. And usually in the process of transitioning, it's a great way to really determine if that's right for you. Absolutely. Because that's when you're going to say, this is hard work. This is really what I want, you know? And so it's interesting that these dynamics play. You know, I'm getting to a place now where I'm even getting confused on what is masculine about me and what is feminine, because if you take off the stereotypes of masculine and feminine, the words start getting really confusing. Because if you say, well, a feminine person is supportive and loving and nurturing, well, there's many fathers out there that are loving, supportive, and nurturing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so how do you dictate one versus the other? And is there even really two? You know, are we just making these words up as we go? It's maybe too much isolation and too much self-thinking.
Yeah,
but
it's also when there's a certain group of people that want you to either choose a side.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
No, you can't be both.
Right.
Are you this or are you that? That's it. And I don't know why they're so adamant about how I choose to live my life. What that does for you, I don't know. But
you know, they think of the children. Think of the children, Naysha. Think of the children, Fabian. I mean, if they would just love their children, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, I'm sure even in the drag community, when you are surrounded by pageant queens, maybe, or queens who are specifically looking for their colleagues and the people they're with to look a certain way and to present a certain way, did you feel any hesitation about wanting to explore your masculinity when you were kind of engulfed in a more feminine setting? Or do you feel like it's always been really supportive either way?
Yeah, I was apprehensive because I felt like they were going to make fun of me.
Sure.
And they did. There were people that did. Wow. You know, there were people that did. They're like, oh, she's trying to be a man now. Wow. You know, and it's like, wow, are you kidding me? Right. But it's also what happens when you're good at what you do.
Yeah.
Because if I was a busted queen,
oh, they would have
they'd be
critiques.
Like, girl, it's about time. You should have never been doing drag. What are you doing? You're a man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then it was, you look so good this way and so feminine this way. Mm-hmm. There's no way you can do this.
Right.
So within our own community, it exists as well, where they were just like, oh, girl,
you can't do this.
And you're right. It was very that. And so when I did Mister Continental, it was one of those things that, of course, I was doing for myself. I'm going to do, you know, I'm not doing this for anybody else. But it was so refreshing to see people like gag. Like they were just really gagged. And I had people come up to me and they're just like, I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And they're like, how did you? And then I'm like, you mean be myself?
Yeah.
Because that's that's me, you know, every day, you know what I mean? And then Naysha is this illusion I've created who's a part of me, you know what I mean? But every day, that's you're me, seeing, that's me, you know? So even within our own community, it's kind of like people get a little funny about it. But after I did it, everyone was more like, oh, okay. Yeah. I see this. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, yeah.
Did you feel like after you had won Miss Continental, by the way, if you guys don't know, she won Miss Continental. So after you won, is that when you're like, okay, maybe I should look into expanding this masculine side of myself more, or did that happen later?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I won. I gave up my crown, and the first thing I did was go get a haircut.
Oh,
I swear to you. I had hair like down to like my back.
What?
And I was like, okay, this has to go.
So that wasn't a wig in Miss Continental?
No, when I won Miss Continental, my hair was down to the middle of my back.
And you wore your natural hair.
And for like swimsuit, I was snatched into a ponytail.
I've seen it.
Like, so like my updos, that's like my hair in the front. Like, and then I won. I did my year, gave up the crown.
Check.
haircut. And if you see Drag Race, the first season 8, I have like all of this like shaved on the side. Then I just had hair like on the top.
Yeah.
I had just cut it. I was like, no, I'm done.
Wow.
I'm done.
So you went on Drag Race relatively soon after.
So I gave up my crown in 2014 in September, and they had invited me that year to be on Drag Race, but I was Miss Continental.
Right.
So I declined.
Sure.
So they asked me the following year if I could audition, like get a tape together.
Sure.
They're like, we would love for you to do it. Do you mind getting a tape together? And I knew that when they were saying like, get the tape together, is because it's a requirement.
Right.
So we would want you to just do this.
Yes.
But you're
gonna
basically
get
in a
on.
show.
You know, you're gonna get,
Yeah.
And so I put the tape together and I sent it, and it was like the very next year. Yeah.
So they had already heard of you. Was that through Miss Continental, or had you?
Yeah, actually, when I won, RuPaul's Drag Race used to have a website that it was just like a drag race website before World of Wonder had the Wow Presents and all that.
Right.
They had a website, and you could actually. They even had like a contest to like audition and stuff. This is back in the day.
I remember because they would have the girl who got voted on.
Yes,
or
exactly.
things like that. Right,
So
right.
on there, because I had auditioned prior.
Sure.
So they knew who I was.
Oh, I think your audition tape is on one of the.
Yeah, I had audition season 1.
Yeah. We've seen it way too many times.
Yeah, I had audition season 1, which is insane.
I caught that.
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, that's Naysha.
It was. I have to say that video was pretty good. Like, it was really
Actually,
good.
Yeah.
They even show a great part of the video.
They showed a few parts of it,
I'm
which is
like-
pretty cool. But like, I did there's a category, the part of the video that you have to do like a runway.
Uh-huh.
So I called my friend, which Joshua Ponte, he's the one that makes most of my costumes. Joshua.
Yes.
He was living in New York at the time, and I called him, and I'm like, I'm coming to New York. I need you to record this for me. I came to New York, and we did my runway in the middle of Times Square. I'm just like doing my runway in the middle of Times Square. We went to Madame Tussauds.
Yeah,
right, yeah,
something like that.
Museum. I don't know how to say it, but you know that museum.
I know exactly which
wax museum.
Yeah, the wax one. And you know they had the RuPaul wax,
Yes,
and I was
yes.
like talking to it. I mean, it was a cute little video.
Yeah. Everything happens at the right time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I had auditioned that time, and then I had auditioned like a couple of times, but they knew who I was. And then I won Miss Continental, and then they had put my photo on the website. It was like, congrats, Naysha Lopez, I'm winning Miss Continental. And then I'm like, I have to get on the show. I have to get on the show. And so then everything happened for the next season, and then that's when I got on. Yeah.
So we've heard you talk about this before, but for those who haven't, what would you classify as the main differences between a pageant like Miss Continental and RuPaul's Drag Race?
The obvious reason, this is a television show.
Yeah.
You know, this is a television show. And
Reality, competition.
Reality, which we all know means not real.
Right.
Yes.
But you know, it's a reality television show, and it's for entertainment purposes, right?
Exactly.
And so personality is up there
Storylines.
before anything.
And specific personality, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone has a great
Absolutely.
personality,
Yeah,
but it doesn't
absolutely.
always
You know
fit
what I mean?
a narrative.
Absolutely. And so pageantry is more structured, I feel like.
Right.
You know exactly what you're doing. You're going to get either a perfect score or you're not. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, it's a system.
It's like a test.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a formula.
Yes. And Drag Race, there's not.
Yeah.
Right.
There's just not.
Yeah.
You know, the season that just wrapped is the perfect example. You had Crystal Envy. Shout out to Crystal Envy. But
So fierce.
Amazing.
Love,
you know,
love.
I met her before the show, and such a beautiful human being. First off, and then the drag is so polished.
We saw
The looks, the makeup,
Yes.
Incredible,
hair.
everything.
It helps that you have money and she has money.
It's expensive.
But it's expensive. It's
Right,
a lot of
right,
money.
right.
I mean,
It
you
is.
don't need it, but it helps.
It helps.
And she just amazing queen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
amazing queen. But then on the show, it just
Doesn't
didn't
read.
register. It
Right.
didn't read.
Right.
It just wasn't for her.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for her. But that doesn't make her a bad
Right.
queen.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's the part that I struggle with this fandom.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they discredit, people based
On a TV show.
a TV show. That is
Yeah.
a TV show.
Right.
So it's kind of crazy. And it's funny because then there's people who win or get really far, and then you see them in person and you're like,
Your personality must be great.
Yeah. That one.
She's the one that won? This one right here? You know what I mean? And it's like, so it is what it
Disconnected.
is. Yeah. There's definitely
Yeah.
a disconnect there.
Yeah.
But pageantry really does discipline you. You know what I mean? Like it gets you together.
Sure.
For every day, for the shows, for Continental starts on time. There's no drag time.
Right.
7:00. The owner of that pageant says, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Contestant number 1,"
Right.
and we'll start 7:00 on the dot. Like
Yeah.
it is no joke. Alexis Mateo, which right now Continental Elite is going on right now, and Alexis is competing.
Oh,
We have to go.
we have to go.
Yeah, so it's happening right now as
Literally
we
as
speak.
we speak.
They're on stage right now competing for
What?
Continental
Too
Elite,
late.
which is 45 years and up.
Wow.
So Alexis Mateo, which was on Drag Race, she was on
Yes.
Drag Race. She's competing right now, and she finished competing, and this is her first time competing. And the first thing she said, she walked out. She's like, "Bitch, we just finished. It's still daylight outside." Like, because they ran through the whole pageant. It was done, preliminary night.
Right.
She's like, "The sun is still out. This pageant does not fuck around. It is like this because
Bam.
it's like 1,
Bam.
all right, 2, yeah, bam, 3. You know what I mean? It's like bam, 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 bam. You gotta, and so it really gets you,
Right.
together and really gets you polished and ready for everyday show.
In comparison to Drag Race, where I bet sometimes it feels like it's constant, and the other times you have
Right.
lulls, like waiting on certain things, and
Absolutely. And listen, I witnessed this where you'll see someone and the costume is just stunning and they
Right.
look great, and then the other one is like, and then they praise that
Right,
one,
right.
and you're like,
even as viewers,
What?
like when you watch it a lot, you start
Yeah.
to pick up on
You
those
start to
things.
get it,
You're like, wait a minute, because if she was wearing that too, but then, luckily too, we hear
Yeah.
that from the queens. They do get to talk about their experiences, and it's like sports when you think of Drag Race. I mean, it's a sport that the queer community can embrace, but there's issues with sports, and that is you have a favorite team and you
Absolutely.
have a not so favorite team.
Absolutely.
And I come from Jacksonville, Florida, where we have this big football game. It's Georgia versus Florida.
okay.
And they all meet in Jacksonville, which doesn't have either school affiliated with the city I live in, but
Okay.
it's their big sporting event. Someone is going to get injured. Someone is going to damage a bulldog, and someone is going to damage a gator. This happens every year. They get hung from something. It's horrible.
Oh my God.
But that is the nature
That's
of
what it is.
competition,
Yeah.
and people take things so seriously.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can probably resonate with the fact that people have been not all too pleasant in your past. And I mean, I think anyone that puts themselves out there on social media can relate, right? You get negative feedback
Absolutely.
constantly. Do you have advice for someone who maybe they're in high school and they're dealing with it, or middle school, or maybe they're in their career, or maybe they're trying to be a podcaster or a drag queen? Like,
Yeah.
how do you shake that off and just
I don't know that I'm the best person to ask
Same.
that because
you'll cut them?
I have my days. I have my days. Seriously. I have my days. I have days where I can brush it off and I'm like, whatever.
Right.
It is what it is, right?
Right.
My problem is I care too much.
Sure.
So when someone says, if I tell you the sky is blue and they're like, actually it's green, I'm like, okay, let's go back and I want you to really look.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I wanna show
because
you.
I want you to get there too. You know what I mean? Like, and
Right.
understand. You know what I mean? And
yes.
I'm one to try my best to understand your point of view and where
Yes.
you are coming
Same.
from. I would love if you can do the same for me. That is all I want.
Yes.
Try to understand
Right.
where I'm coming from and what I'm saying.
Right.
But there's people that are like, they're just not for that.
Yep.
And they're just like, no, it's my opinion. This is what it is. It's the be all end all and fuck you and what you think. You know what I mean? And it's just
Yes.
like,
You picked the wrong one.
right. It is just like, oh my gosh. You know what I mean? And the biggest issue that I have with all that stuff online is you can say my drag sucks. You can say you hated the gown I had on. You can say
It's your opinion.
that hair color doesn't look right on me. But you don't get to attack me as a person. You
Right.
do not know me.
Right.
You don't get to call me a horrible human being.
Right.
You don't get to say that I'm exhausting. You don't get to say that I just suck at life
Right.
and then tell me what I need to go do it myself. You don't get to do those things because you don't know me.
I don't even know you.
I don't know. Right.
Who are you again?
Who are you? And
Isn't it
why
funny?
are you the one to decide that I need to quit my job, quit drag, and move on with my life and do something? You know what I mean? So it's just those certain things I just don't really understand, and I can't. I feel like I just don't have the capacity
Yep.
Yeah.
to understand these
Yep.
people. So I get to where I'm like, I'll ignore, and
Yeah.
and I'm Puerto Rican. We're
was
argumentative.
gonna say,
we're combative. We're argumentative. We're loud.
And a drag queen.
Yes. I mean,
And there's really nothing
there's
someone
so
can
many.
say to you that a drag queen probably hasn't already tried to say to each other or you've heard.
Right.
So,
No,
what are they going to...
My thing is when they
Wasting
try to
their time.
read me, and I'm just like, I've heard this. Get creative.
not new.
Tell me something I haven't. You know what I mean?
know?
It's like whatever.
Yeah.
But for anyone that's a little bit, younger and is getting, negativity, just realize that reflects more on who they are and not who you are.
Yep.
If they're projecting,
Yep.
they're in a place where they feel that they have to make you feel less than.
Right.
Because that's where they're at.
Right.
So just understand that it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them.
Oftentimes, too, it's that you are living your authentic self or presenting your authentic self, and people who are not, it really,
it bothers
really
them.
triggers them. And there's not much for the person that, for you, if they're coming at you, it's not like, you're not their therapist. I'm not here to,
No.
I mean, if
Save
you want to pay me on the hour, like we could
No.
talk rates, but, but, not for free, certainly
Right.
not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a line in one of Kennedy Davenport's RuPaul songs where she says, if somebody didn't like me, I wouldn't even know it.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Seriously.
That's what we say to each other.
Yeah. We
But
just
you
had
have
her on
to.
Friday. Did you see it? We just had her.
We're waiting. We save
We
this for
just-
when we're really down for the week and we
Yeah,
need something
it
to
was
get us
good.
through. We watch Roscoe's.
It was
It
good.
is.
She's hilarious. So.
Sometimes we watch it because we can't wait if it's a Friday
Yeah.
or Saturday. But it
Speaking
truly
of Roscoe's,
brings
what an amazing show because
life,
we
right?
get to watch perspective of the queens.
Yeah.
And most of the
Yes.
times we see them on TV, we see them on Drag Race, but even with Untuck, we don't get to see their story. And on Roscoe's, we get to hear sometimes
Yes.
the tea.
Yes.
We get to hear their opinions about the show. It's amazing how you can bring them and speak their perspective on
Yeah.
Drag Race.
I love that you get to know them, really.
Yeah.
Because
Yes, for
that's,
sure.
It's funny because you'll have, when it comes to this show, Roscoe's, I read every comment. Every single one. I go and I read all of them because there are some that are constructed. They'll say, hey, what happened to this? Or, hey, I wish you would ask this. And, there's certain
sure.
things that, you want to be mindful of. So I read everything, which can also fuck with my head.
Sure.
But I love when I get to those comments that are like, oh my God, I love her now.
Yeah.
I love
Like
her
I
now.
love her now.
Yes.
I feel like I got to know her, and oh my God, I'm like falling in love with her.
Yeah.
And then someone to put not Kennedy, but I'm just going to use her as an example.
Sure.
They were like,
Right.
I just went into Kennedy Davenport, rabbit hole because I saw her at Roscoe's and I fell in love with her, and now I'm in a rabbit hole. Oh my God, thanks Roscoe's, And we love that. We
sure.
love that you
Amazing.
get to know these queens on a different level because
Yes.
some of them don't get to do that on the show.
Right.
Right. Right.
And with the magic of editing,
Yeah.
they can our contract literally says like you have to be okay with being a villain.
Yeah.
Even if that's
Wow.
not who you intended to be.
Right.
We might edit you that way and you got to be okay with that,
Sure. Sure.
So to have them come on the show, speak freely.
Yeah.
Mind you, I coach 90% of them because I'm like, I have read this contract and I know what you can say and what you can't.
I do love that, though. I feel like sometimes you go into a podcast or to an environment
Yeah.
where it's like, we can't wait to have you. And then you get there and they grill you or they try to get you to do something that
Yes.
they know is wrong because inflammatory content makes more eyes,
right.
go that
Absolutely.
way. And so I feel like you, very specifically, are like, no, she can't say that.
Right.
No.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to say that. And
Yeah.
you're very protective of the girls.
Oh, totally.
And have been in many facets.
Well, one, I love our show. I want to be able to continue to do it.
Very that.
I don't want ever their contract to say you cannot go to
Right.
Roscoe's
Right,
because
right.
they can easily do
Sure,
that. You know what I
sure,
mean?
sure.
But with the success of our show only adds to theirs. as
Exactly.
well. You know what I
totally
mean?
Yes.
feeds into to it for sure.
So I know that that's not where they would want to go. However, there are producers that call the girls once they see who's booked that day. They will call them the day before, and they're
Wow.
like, "Naysha's gonna try this, and just be careful and blah blah." And it's funny because they always they try to say that like I'm gonna try to get something out of them, and in reality, I don't try to get anything out that
it's a
I know
conversation.
is not appropriate or
Right.
is going to get them in trouble.
Right.
On the contrary, I tell them production questions, do not answer.
Yes.
If you get stuck, just look at me, open your eyes, and I'm going
Right.
to answer the question for you.
Yeah.
Because and it's funny because we'll get comments that are like, Naysha needs to shut up. She's talking too much, you know? And then I'm like, I'm not going to get in trouble. She is. You know what I mean? I'm like, but anyway, it's like
your show.
I know. It's just, I don't understand people sometimes. I really don't.
People want to find a reason to critique.
They definitely will. But sometimes the girls will look at me and I'm like, oh no, I'll answer that, and know I'll go into production questions and stuff like that. Or I talked to them before and I'm like, hey, just make sure that when you're gonna say something,
Right.
you always talk about your feelings, like how you felt.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that
You can say.
Yeah, you can
you're
say
allowed to
because
talk
that's
about
what you
your
were
feelings.
feeling.
Right.
So you can say you felt like someone was favored, but
Sure.
you don't flat out say Rue favored her. You know what I mean? Or
She
something
got
like that.
30 extra hours on the
Exactly.
and we were all locked in our hotel rooms.
Yeah. So, there's certain things, and I always ask them too, like, hey, is there something you want me to ask?
Sure.
Is there
Right.
something you want to talk about? We'll
cool.
throw that in there. Or is there something you don't want to talk about?
Yeah.
And then if there's something I specifically want to talk about, like I just had Valentina and I had.
Right.
We
I had,
watched that one.
Yeah, I had Valentina and I had
Fierce.
Detox.
Right.
And,
Right.
they're both on two completely different journeys
Right.
with, their identity, gender identity. And with the political climate that we are in right now, I felt like it was important that
Right.
they, talk about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me exactly where you're at.
Right.
I don't want to know if you're on bones or not. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's not what we need to talk about.
For sure.
But let's talk about your journey.
Right.
And what I really wanted to touch on was that they're older. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
And so it's one of those things that it's like, this
You
is
may
their
make-
journey. There's no
yeah.
right or wrong way to do it. And you
Right.
can do this whenever the hell
Yeah.
you want.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's so funny how the right side is focused on children, and the children transition the children, and it's like the children are not transitioning. Like no one is trying. Like it's just insane
so
to me.
rare.
But it's so and so it's just a little crazy. But and I had to ask them. Point being is that I asked them about that. I'm like, hey, Detox, where are you at? Can we talk about this?
Sure.
Absolutely. Hey, Valentina, where are you at? Is it okay if we talk about this? She said,
Right.
Actually, she's like, why do you want to talk about it? 'Cause that's very much Valentina. I adore her. And she's
so
like, why would
funny.
you like to talk about this? And I'm like, well, because of this. She goes,
Okay.
okay, I see where you're going. You know what I mean? She was totally with
So
it.
she's like that all the time. Like this is her.
Oh, baby, that's her.
That is
Wow.
her.
That is, there's no act. There's no
I thought it was
thing.
hilarious that she got there first.
Yeah.
Because she's always late, allegedly.
She used to be, I believe.
Oh, she's better now.
Because they were on tour together.
Right.
And so I guess on this tour, she was like always late. Also, we have to remember that when Valentina was on Drag Race the first time, she was 21 years old.
Right.
She's been doing it for 8 months.
And so, yeah,
She had
8
just started.
months. And, the makeup, it takes a while. And Valentina, myself, there's certain girls that we want you to come up to my face this close and the makeup looks beautiful.
Right.
The lines are right. It's blended.
Yep.
You know what? Everything is where it's supposed to be.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And people that are that meticulous, you cannot rush.
Sure.
You cannot rush.
I can't imagine.
You just cannot rush. You know what I mean? So for someone at that age,
Right.
and the talent that she has and what she wanted to look like,
Incredible.
it's gonna take time.
She's definitely one of our favorites,
Yeah.
of course.
Oh, I love
I mean,
Valentina.
it's funny too because when you first start watching Drag Race, this is my experience. When you first start watching Drag Race, you have like one favorite or two, and then 3, and before you know it, you like 10.
Yeah.
Then you like 30, and then
Yeah.
you're going to Drag Con like just trying to collect Pokemon cards. You're like,
It's
I love
so
them all.
true.
And if you watch Roscoe's, it's like all of them.
All of them
again.
Every single week, you have to hear like some of the comments that will they're like, "This was the best episode," and then the
Yeah.
next week, "No, this was the best episode." You know what I mean? Like they just
Yeah.
keep going because they just love every single. It's just like every single girl has something else to offer, and it's such a good time.
Honestly, most of the times the episodes of Roscoe's are better than the episodes of Drag Race.
My God, we get that too. We
I'm
get
sure.
that too. Yeah,
I'm
we get
sure.
that too.
I mean, I feel like the dynamic and the creation that y'all have there is
Mm-hmm.
so unique. But when you look around, I mean, there's kind of viewing parties everywhere.
Yes.
How did you get from I guess it's 10 years that Roscoe's has been doing it now?
We
or
have been doing it.
I thought something 10-year anniversary.
I believe it's 10 years that we've been doing it now. Yeah, I think it's 10 years.
Amazing.
I haven't been doing it 10 years.
Gotcha.
I'm doing it now going on 5, I think.
Sure,
4 or
sure.
5 years. 5, I think, is what I'm going on.
How did you get there?
Well, I lived in Chicago.
Gotcha, right.
I was working at a different bar that will remain nameless.
There's always something like that.
But I was at this bar, and I had been at this bar for a very long time.
Sure.
And then COVID happened, and they were like, oh, we want to revamp the show. We want to do something. Anyway, but I was there. I was doing a lot of shows there,
Sure.
and they cut them by more than half. Like,
Wow.
it was, I don't know, it was just kind of weird. And I'm just like, no, this isn't gonna work for me.
Yeah, you're reading the signs.
And so I put in my letter of resignation, and then the owner was like, no, you cannot quit, absolutely not. Let me fix this. Now, I get why you're not urgent about it, but this is my livelihood and it's my job.
Yes.
So I need you to have a little more urgency than that.
Right.
And so I hadn't heard back in a minute, and I just kind of resent the letter and was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, let's just leave it. Don't do anything.
Sure.
And then I sent an email to Roscoe that said, hey, by the way, and I think I pushed send and my phone was ringing. And they're like, I have the perfect job for you. Get over
Amazing.
here.
Yeah.
And the second I left there, I think like the following week, I was hosting at Roscoe's.
It was meant to be.
Gig. It was meant to be. Everything just happened like bam, bam, bam. Like they lost their host, and it just so happened I had quit over here, and they were like, oh my gosh, this could not be like even more
it just
perfect.
worked out.
And it worked out.
And you automatically kind of went into hosting the viewing party as
Yeah,
well?
no, that's where I went straight
Amazing.
to hosting this viewing party.
And when
So
did it blow up exactly? Because we started watching it as we started watching. Actually, I think it was your season of All Stars was the
Okay.
first
Yeah.
season that we
that you
watched.
guys started watching it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I mean, I think too, we had heard you were going to be on All Stars,
Yeah.
and we wanted more of you
Yeah.
to see your perspective and to hear that you were going to be doing a viewing party. We're like, this is incredible.
Yeah. So when I came on board, it was a little different because the host who was hosting it before would ask questions based on what they see.
Right.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
But for example, they would, and this is just, I'm just giving like an example, like let's say confessionals, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you just said that confessional, and you're like, okay, well, those are recorded at the end of the week.
Right.
So having that information and having certain things that only
Right, yeah.
that I
Seen on
knew
the show.
because I was
Right.
there
Right.
was really, really a benefit for
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
And when I was on there, production, I mean, I fell in love with production and they fell in love with me.
Right.
And so to this day, I can pick up the phone and be like,
Cool.
girl, what happened? You know what I mean? And then they're like, girl, and then I'm like, okay, work. You know what I mean?
But it also helps the show because
Yeah.
you add
Totally.
layers of the
Totally.
show that we don't get to see. That
Yeah.
it's not like you're saying, well, this is the like you don't really
I
say
would
anything
never,
bad. You know?
and I would never, because I'm not trying to ruin your
right,
experience
and us,
while
right.
you're watching
we like
it.
the show,
You know?
so
Yeah.
you know you're catering, and everyone is benefiting.
I don't want to ruin your experience.
for
You
sure.
know what I mean?
For
Like
sure.
that's not what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
You know, I want to elaborate on our experience.
Yes.
You know, and I want you to kind of know the pressure we're under,
Yeah.
the way things kind of work, and
Yeah.
how things kind of play out. And then I want the girls to kind of tell us, well, we saw this kind of happen. I know this happened. So how did that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's just certain things, and it's funny because then they get to explain that, and people are home like. Oh, so that's
would
why.
happen. Yeah.
Now that makes
Yes,
sense, you
yes.
know? So I think once I came on board, because I brought a different perspective, we kind of just
Took off.
I can tell. Yeah.
well, listen, I cannot like what you're wearing, not like it,
Sure.
but that doesn't mean I love you any less.
Right.
Right.
You know what I
Exactly,
mean?
you
Like
know?
I can say the dress is hideous.
this is what the show's
It's not
about.
cute.
This is what the show's
I would never
about.
worn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not disrespecting you.
Right.
It's a review show. That's
Yeah,
what we're
exactly.
doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that there were people that were that would kind of tiptoe and not really express an honest opinion or honest point of view because, they're going to read me, or I can't say that.
Afraid of the opinions.
Exactly. And then fans like come in and trust me, I get it. I get it all the time. They come after me. I'll say something, they don't like it. They're going to come after me anyway. Yeah. Who cares? So
what's crazy is that goes just beyond your show, but I feel like we're getting all to a place where we're scared to speak our opinions because people are so inflamed by the things we say.
You know, we have to normalize having a difference of opinion. That is perfectly fine.
It's actually,
listen, we can't all say that it's all sunshine and rainbows.
Because it's not.
Because it's not.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to like something just because you like it and vice versa.
And I can like you and not like what you're wearing or what you presented. And I'm going to give you some advice, you know, and that could be on any capacity, right? And that's how conversations and friendships are really made, is by being honest with each other. Yeah. But I feel like we could literally talk for another 3 hours. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You have a significant other.
I do.
And I really wanted to talk about him, but maybe one day you could convince him to join us.
Oh my God, absolutely. I would absolutely bring him.
We would love to just be able to highlight more queer couples and the dynamics between the two.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's really another goal of this show. We had a guest who hopefully people have seen the video already. I think they were our last guest.
Yeah.
I don't know. But we invited them and they brought their partner out. Like, we didn't even expect it. And we just all decided to sit together and talk. And it was a great time.
Yeah,
and so
I
if
love
you
that.
would convince him to come.
Oh, no convincing. He's gonna do it.
Really? Okay. We would love to have you back.
He would totally do it. He would totally do it.
Happen.
He will be here this weekend or next weekend because it's our 2-year anniversary on Saturday, next Saturday.
Amazing.
So
I've been following along. Obviously, we follow you on Instagram, so we've been following your romantic relationship as well, which we love to see.
Yeah, so
we'll make that happen. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. The time
My
flew.
pleasure. Thank you so much
We're
for
going to
having
be seeing
me.
you again soon.
And making it so easy.
Yes, we try. I mean, this is what it's supposed to be. We come in gym clothes because we want to be comfy, a comfy
they
atmosphere.
told me to wear gym clothes.
I did.
I swear they did.
I needed to see you in gym clothes.
I came in gym clothes.
We will see you again in gym clothes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
My pleasure.